a lot of people in their early 20s, like in college, people can't just go afford big paintings. They probably don't, one, have the space or anything, but they could support your artwork on a t-shirt for like $30 or something like that.
Right.
And when I was, a bit younger in my early 20s, I was like, yeah, like I feel the same way. Like I love paintings, but I can't afford them, or I don't have the space, or X, Y, and Z. So I just started to like paint clothes and put my artwork on jeans and draw on people's shoes or skateboards or kind of whatever. And it was just kind of leaving my mark, exploring different mediums and materials. And I just like to see my artwork in those different mediums and materials. And people tend to like it and support it. And it's just a different sector arm of my artwork.
I love how you're not precious about it too, and I think it's actually kind of a similar ethos to the nounish ethos of CC0. Not to say that all of your art is necessarily really CC0, but remixing it yourself and putting it out into the world on people's jeans and on people's hats and on their shoes kind of like memifies the art in a way, and you're not worried. You don't seem worried that that's going to like devalue your real art or whatever,
No. Yeah, I think I've definitely even like insert my artwork into memes. Like I'll find a meme, screenshot it, then like erase it and like put in my artwork somehow in different ways. I think it's just about spreading it in as many different ways as possible and just kind of having fun with it. Yeah, I try not to be too precious. I think there's a time and place when to be precious and when not to be. And I think just spreading artwork in as many different ways is fun, and just getting together and drawing, whether it's on somebody's shoe or on an expensive canvas or in a digital space or any of the above. So the time and place for all the above.
Welcome back to Zero Rights Reserved, the podcast about nouns, DAOs, Ethereum, NFTs, and more, brought to you by the Noun Square Media Collective. I'm your host, Toady Hawk, and I'm joined today by artist, designer, and doodler extraordinaire, Mr. Vinnie Hager. How are you, Vinnie? Welcome to ZEROPOD.
Thank you for having me. How's it going? I'm glad to be here.
I'm doing so good. And, we've had you on TNS on Spaces before, which was amazing. Just felt natural to get you on the pod as well. So we can dig a little deeper and also see what you look like too, right? Because, we were all imagining, but
of course,
now you're so doxed. One of the things I like to do on this podcast is really dig into the people, behind the art in your case. And I'd love to hear a little bit about your artistic journey, if you would mind sharing with us. From what I understand, you've been an artist from a very young age, so it's kind of an interesting story.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. I think the normal kind of spiel that I've given is that, as long as I remember, I was just a little kid that gravitated towards, chalk on the driveway, coloring books. My childhood house was kind of filled with art and it was colorful and things like that. And I think I was always kind of surrounded by it and had art books, and was the kid in elementary school that took all the art classes. And I continued that all the way through middle school, high school, college, and then up until now. You
were that annoying kid that knew what he wanted to be from like the age of 3, right?
I don't know if I knew it. I think it was innately in me somehow. And then later in life, I'm like, maybe this could be a thing. Yeah, maybe I am a quote unquote artist.
They're like, what do you guys want to be? And they were like, fireman. They're like, Superman. Yeah. And you were like, famous digital artist. No,
I think I'd like to draw a lot and take it from there. I definitely want to. Yeah, I think. At one point I wanted to be like a wrestler or like a basketball player, but I didn't really do any of those things. And I just always gravitated towards artwork. So I think I just looked at what I was doing the most, and that was drawing and creating and coloring and things like that.
Well, I'm going to scratch that one off because I did have, do you still want to be a wrestler down as one of my questions. So
yes, hopefully in the next 5 years, we'll get that one done.
It's good to have a 5-year plan. That's great.
Of course.
Where I learned about that, of course, was from your short film that was released recently called Diary. I'd love to hear a little bit about the genesis of how that came to be, and just talk a little bit about the making of that short film.
Yeah, it was always something that I wanted to do, was to be, I guess after the last few years of kind of just being online a ton, and I would do like Twitter Spaces and certain kind of public speaking things. And I was just creating a lot of artwork and kind of thinking of ways to kind of tell my story in different ways, and how my kind of personal life relates to my artwork and vice versa. And just kind of wanted to put out a bit of a project, and that kind of evolved into a video project with some of my close friends that kind of told this story, that kind of broke down just a bit about myself if people are interested, because over the past years I've had people collecting my artwork, whether physical or digital, and if those people were interested in kind of more things about me, I wanted to kind of present that in a way, and that was this video, this kind of diary mini doc, and just gave a glimpse into me and my artistic practice and things that have happened in my personal life and professional life, quote unquote. And yeah, it came at a time when I released a new body of artwork, and that body of artwork was kind of me looking back on many years of drawing, physical drawings, and wanting to create a collection of artwork out of those, and then to pair it with this kind of video and storytelling narrative aspect of it all.
Yeah, you started off that film with a quote from your mother that I thought was pretty prescient. I'm wondering if you could talk about that a little bit, because I think it obviously informs your art.
Yeah, the concept of keeping everything, whether it's, like I got like scraps here of like trash that I'm doing, like there's just stuff, and I'm sort of like a minimalist and like sort of neat a lot of the times. But with my artwork, I just am always doing it, always thinking about it, always drawing, scribbling, taking ideas, note taking. And I just had her in the back of my mind always about, hey, just keep everything that you make, whether you like it or not, or it's finished or it's not, or if it's for sale or it's not, or what, just, if you're making a lot of things, you're making them for a reason. So kind of keep them. And I kept that in the back of my head. And I think that's kind of influenced a lot of my art making now, and the things that I do with my artwork that I have saved, and vice versa.
How do you go through the process of choosing what art you want to share with the world and what art ends up in your basement?
Yeah, a natural kind of thing. Mostly, I've realized over many years I can't keep like sketchbooks or anything that kind of binds artwork. So I'm usually just I'm treating each drawing or thing that I create as like a standalone kind of piece of artwork. So, I tend to tweet or put on my Instagram story or whatever, most of the things that I'm working on at some point. But I guess it all depends. I don't think about it too much about what I post or what I don't, or what I share, or what I put up for sale, or any of the above. I think those kind of come with what feels right in the moment, maybe.
Makes sense. Mm-hmm. One of the things that I found really interesting hearing your story was about, you talked about remembering in high school, like drawing like mini canvases for other kids, kind of similar in style to what you're famous for today. And I think that's probably pretty rare for artists to sort of come into their style that early in their artistic development. So I'm curious about that. Like, how did you come into that style of like super detailed, I don't want to call them doodles in like a derogatory way. They're all amazing, but that style.
Very much so came from, I think, being like a young, 10, 11, 12-year-old kid, having trouble paying attention in class, but also having like a knack for wanting to draw. So I would just have all these handouts and all these paperworks in, middle school or whatever. And I would just kind of fill in the border around the papers, and I'd write my name differently, and I'd draw on the backs of them. And that would kind of
Did you ever make the S? The S? The
no, I think that was right. That was before my time.
Damn.
I missed it.
Did I just date myself? Shit.
I was close though. But yeah, I would just kind of draw all these shapes and symbols, and always drawing like eyeballs and like weird stuff that kids draw, I guess. And I kind of just, I was really into like graffiti and skateboarding and these kind of artistic things on their own. But a lot of it just stemmed from trying to pay attention in class, and I would just draw and fill in space with shapes and symbols, and take influence from things that I would listen to or hear, or other art that I was looking at. And I just started to do that. And then I had like a Michael's kind of pre-stretched canvas at my house, a little inexpensive one that you could buy at, Michael's craft store. And I was like, well, why don't I just do what I do in class on that? And I would kind of paint the backgrounds differently and try to make them all different. And each one was a progression from the one that I'd make prior. And yeah, kids in high school would be like, oh, can I get one of those? I'd be like, yeah, $25, or yeah, $50 for like a bigger one. And
it respect the hustle.
Yeah, and I kind of started like a little log book of like the sales and stuff, and my grandma was like all into it, and
That's
it's
awesome.
probably, like ninth grade or something. And then I'd make T-shirts and I'd draw on random stuff, and it was just
You were like keeping a distributed ledger of your art before NFTs. You were
I still have, yeah, I still
before you
have it. Yeah, it's like so and so paid me $25 in cash, and then this one was something else, and
I
so
wonder
yeah.
if any of them. I wonder if any of them still have the pieces. If they knew.
Dude, they do. Like some are my like not close friends anymore, but we still stay in contact via the internet here and there, and they still have them hung up
That's awesome.
anywhere, and people are stoked to still have them. So
That is really cool. So obviously you had sort of a storied history of doing what we'll call, I guess, regular physical art. Many people listening to this podcast, watching this podcast, probably know you for your digital art. I'd love to hear when and how you made the jump from physical, doodling in your classes, and then I know you went to art school and took that path. How did you end up in the NFT space in the first place?
yeah, I think probably same time, like in the middle of high school, 10th, 11th, 12th grade, I was starting to I like had I guess a baseline of these shapes and symbols that I would always draw all the time, and I wanted to take that baseline of these shapes and symbols but kind of experiment with as many different mediums as possible. So then I was like, well, how do I print a t-shirt, or can I'll draw on skateboards, or I'll paint on furniture, or I'll make big paintings, or I was just experimenting with different materials really. And I think that naturally came to being like, oh, well, I don't really know a lot about Photoshop, and I'm not good with like a keyboard and a mouse, but maybe I'll get like an iPad. And I think the Apple Pencil had just come out, and that was like kind of the closest that I could get to drawing, because I'm always drawing with like a marker.
Yeah.
So I got an iPad, and I think that iPad sat on a shelf for like a year, and I was like, I don't know about drawing digitally. And I think at that time I was just getting on Twitter in general, just to share artwork as a different social media, but started to follow certain artists, and they would talk about NFTs, and then I would kind of fall down that rabbit hole and follow all the people that they were following, and quickly kind of just started learning. And I had a close friend who was buying crypto kitties in like 2017, 2018 or something like that. And I didn't get it back then, but fast forward, he was kind of telling me about it more. And
did you get at least one punk? Because you hate to hear about it when they had the kitties, but not the punk.
Negative. Wish I did. I wish I took it more seriously when I first got into it. It was like it took a little time, but I think with the culmination of how people were using technology to distribute artwork and building communities, and people were bonding over these things, plus just using kind of Twitter to post about my artwork in general, it all kind of culminated in the pandemic. So I was just inside all day making artwork and on Twitter, and it's kind of this perfect storm.
How many artists did the pandemic produce? People just sitting around.
Blessing and a curse. Blessing and a curse.
Amazing. Let's talk a little bit about Letters, which is probably the digital collection, the NFT collection that most people will know you from. It is a 1,000-piece collection that many people think is generative, but it's actually not generative. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, it was, at the time, we're coming up on the 2-year letter anniversary in like 3 or 4 days.
Happy anniversary.
We minted out October 29th. We had an issue in the contract, so we had to fix it overnight, and then we finished minting out on the 30th. Somehow people were finding ways. You could only mint one if you were on the allow list or whatever, and there was a bug where people were figuring they could mint multiple, so we kind of nipped that in the butt really quick. But yeah, it came out 2 years ago, which somehow time surely flies, which is nuts.
Was 2021 really 2 years ago? Wow, it doesn't seem like it.
I actually made the mistake of posting in my Discord that the 3-year anniversary was coming up, and somebody was like, whoa, well, I don't think it was 3 years ago.
But you meant 3 years in NFT time, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And just looking back on it then, I was inspired by other artists' collections. There was Defaced, another artist in the space, and he had Defaced and Friends, and I think it was, I don't remember how many pieces was in his collection, 20 or 50 or something, but it was like a small collection of just one of ones, and it was under kind of a theme. And that kind of reminded me of a traditional art show. There's a name that is the theme of the show, sort of. There's an artist statement, and then there's all these kind of individual pieces that make up the bigger show. And to me, I just, always drew this little envelope or letter kind of symbol. And I just kind of was using it all the time as something that I drew. And I wanted to kind of brand almost a kind of body of artwork around that. So I just kind of thought about that and kind of wanted to personalize each of the 1,000 pieces. It started off as, I was going to do 200 of them. And then I met some friends and we were talking about it. And I was kind of forming this small team of people that would help me out with the project. And we're like, oh, we should do 1,000. I was like, okay, sick. Like, I don't think anybody's hand drawn.
You're like, easy for you to say. You don't have to draw them.
Yeah, but I took it as a challenge. I was like, that's really cool. Yeah, can I hand draw 1,000 digital pieces of artwork? And I hadn't seen other people do it. And I just kind of thought it was something special at the time and a bit different than what other artists were doing at the time. It wasn't generative. I just took it as a challenge and wanted to see if I could do these kind of 1,000 different drawings in a small amount of time that I gave myself. And
at any point in time during that process where you're like, what have I done? Like, I've been off too much.
No, but my hand would start to cramp up. I was so motivated and so excited to make them, but my hand just holding that Apple Pencil, I'd be like, oh my God, I just sit there for hours and draw them as, either as fast as I could, and I'd take my time on some, and then really fast, and it was just pure arthritis workout. I feel like I might set myself up for something, but.
Yeah, for sure. So you drew all those on Procreate on the iPad. Before you were talking about how you did primarily physical art and the iPad sat on a shelf for a year. I'd love to hear sort of about how you became more comfortable drawing digitally and maybe just in general comparing drawing, physically and digitally, because I know you still do a lot of both.
Yeah, it still bogs my mind. I've actually been trying to do some like personal evaluation. Like I just did these like big drawings the other day that are on my floor right here, and they're very mixed media using a bunch of drawing materials. But then I tried to recreate it digitally on my iPad and trying to think how I would think doing one or the other, and I kind of got confused. So it's still like a weird disconnect to me. They're not too similar, but they do different things, which is fun. So I just tried to when I first got the iPad, I was hesitant about it. It didn't feel the same as drawing with markers and crayons and pencils and things like that. But I just tried to force myself to learn how to do it and to kind of use it in different ways as a tool.
Well,
so
for one thing, physical is a lot less forgiving. So, I mean, for many of us that have trouble, writing in a birthday card without hitting the other side with the Y, how do you deal with that? How do you spatially plan out when you're doing these things, or is it just natural?
Yeah, no planning whatsoever. It's usually I just sit down and I'm like, I'm going to draw. I would like to draw. And I just sit for hours and draw and just kind of, there's no rules really. So I don't really set myself up for anything. I'm like staring at these drawings, trying to think of what I was thinking when making them. And it's just kind of a cathartic thing. You sit and draw and fill in space and try something different and really just take your time and have fun. So I think that's where a lot of my drawings kind of just come from.
Is there any particular inspiration for the actual symbols and shapes themselves, or do you find they just come into your head and then they come into your repertoire and then you pull them out like a rapper who's freestyling?
Yeah, sort of like that. I've just been drawing, flowers and smiley faces and pyramids and stars, and kind of this repertoire of, I guess that's the word, of kind of shapes and symbols that I've had for many years now. And to me, I just think like a peace sign is a circle. How many other, you could draw like an 8-ball, that's a circle, and smiley face, that's you just kind of dumb them down really. And then I think about what shape would fit next to that and kind of just build it out like a jigsaw puzzle or like an I Spy book or something, where it's just all cluttered, but they kind of make sense to each other. And
you should make a font. You could like have the new wingdings.
Oh, that'd be sick. Yeah.
Oh, we need Vinnie Hager dings.
we need to code it somehow.
That'd be pretty cool. So we talked about drawing on iPad and drawing physically. One thing you also love to do is drawing on clothing, and it's a way that you connect with your community often. Tell me a little bit about that. It's something you've been doing for a long time, right?
Yeah, I think forgot what video. Yeah, it was few years back, maybe like 5 years ago, 6 years ago. I was watching some like YouTube video, and it was some like multidisciplinary artist was talking about a lot of people in their early 20s, like in college, people can't just go afford big paintings. They probably don't, one, have the space or anything, but they could support your artwork on a t-shirt for like $30 or something like that.
Right.
And when I was, a bit younger in my early 20s, I was like, yeah, like I feel the same way. Like I love paintings, but I can't afford them, or I don't have the space, or X, Y, and Z. So I just started to like paint clothes and put my artwork on jeans and draw on people's shoes or skateboards or kind of whatever. And it was just kind of leaving my mark, exploring different mediums and materials. And people responded to that. So I would sell kind of hand painted t-shirts and jeans and home goods on my web store. And I kind of still do that today. Little online releases if people want to, if they want clothes or any of the
trucker
above.
hats. I have to mention the trucker hats, always in demand.
Ski masks, and then kind of explored just getting things manufactured. We just did some kind of all over print track suits and these like full zip up hoodies. And
I saw those. I kind of want one. I like how they zip all the way up to the top.
Yeah, it's for the cozy season coming up. And I just like to see my artwork in those different mediums and materials. And people tend to like it and support it. And it's just a different sector arm of my artwork.
I love how you're not precious about it too, and I think it's actually kind of a similar ethos to the nounish ethos of CC0. Not to say that all of your art is necessarily really CC0, but remixing it yourself and putting it out into the world on people's jeans and on people's hats and on their shoes kind of like memifies the art in a way, and you're not worried. You don't seem worried that that's going to like devalue your real art or whatever,
No. Yeah, I think I've definitely even like insert my artwork into memes. Like I'll find a meme, screenshot it, then like erase it and like put in my artwork somehow in different ways. I think it's just about spreading it in as many different ways as possible and just kind of having fun with it. Yeah, I try not to be too precious. I think there's a time and place when to be precious and when not to be. And I think just spreading artwork in as many different ways is fun, and just getting together and drawing, whether it's on somebody's shoe or on an expensive canvas or in a digital space or any of the above. So the time and place for all the above.
Well, speaking of drawing on people's clothing, I had to represent, of course, wearing my Nouns jersey from Web3 FC and NFT NYC. Which
that feels like ages ago.
It was a year and a half ago now, I guess. And this was the first time I've worn it since then. It's been hanging, and I'm going to get it framed. Not just because of your art. That's definitely it's got a nice place in my heart, just because that event was really great, and then meeting you in person and having you draw on it. So to your point, just about like being able to add character to a piece of clothing. Like for me, when I travel, everywhere I travel, I get T-shirts of where I'm going, and I wear those T-shirts, and it makes me like relive the time of those experiences. So there is something powerful about clothing as art or whatever, or clothing as part of your identity.
Mm-hmm. Holds memories. You always think a good time. I always keep like a stash of T-shirts or postcards. I'm always trying to get little mementos or whatever from my travels or adventures and different things. And if that can revolve art, I think that makes it even better.
100%. We were just talking about this a little bit, but I wanted to double click on it in terms of like the type of art that you do. You could maybe almost call it like lo-fi in a way, and I find it kind of similar in some properties to pixel art if we're coming at it from the Nouns perspective. And one of the things I love a lot about Cryptodes and about Nouns is because it's pixel, people can see themselves in it a lot easier than they could maybe in a more detailed piece of art. And I'm wondering if you see any parallels with what you do and how easy it is to remix or memify or what have you because of the simplicity of the shapes.
Yeah, I think it's it's like give and take. I think sometimes it's fun to insert and simplify my kind of shapes and symbols and the kind of vocabulary that I use. But recently I've been trying to kind of adapt it and make it like more complex, more detailed, more mixed media, and having less simplified. So it's just not that strong, bold outline all the time, kind of amping it up and just trying to do something different. So I've been kind of trying to make it more complex in fun ways. But I always like how it can be simplified and, can make its mark and its point simply.
Well, I think it makes sense for your style to evolve, of course. But I don't think that simple here in by any stretch of the imagination is an insult. I think it's really hard to make. It's hard to make really powerful, simple art.
Agreed. Yeah. I mean, if you can simplify something and people recognize it in whatever context, I think that's pretty important. And it's a good thing. You know, if you could see, I would hope in maybe like 10, 20 years, like if somebody saw like an envelope and an eyeball and a little peace sign kind of drawn in my way, they'd be like, oh, that's that guy's Vinnie's artwork or something like that. But then it's fun to kind of take that and deconstruct it and, you know, twist it in a bunch of different ways and remix it. So I think it's great to simplify something, and it's really strong in an artist's portfolio. Maybe if they kind of have that recognizable thing, like you draw a blue cat or something, you might think of Clon and the cool cats, or you could pinpoint any other kind of artists and things like that.
I'm glad you pointed out Clon and the cool cats, because I definitely wanted to ask you a little bit about that. Obviously, you've got a storied history with these guys. I think it's how you met Toby, who's now your manager. So love to hear a little bit about the cool cat story and how you ended up in that community.
Yeah, I think it was all from Twitter. It was at the time my biggest purchase. I think it was like 2 ETH or something I bought my cat at, and I was like, oh, this thing is sick. It was something about it. It was seemed like just I was in the Discord a lot, and I liked the artwork style, and I just gravitated towards it naturally, and then met a lot of people like Toby, my friend Dose. I met Clon. I met my friend Ali, and all these kind of people that have helped me out through different projects and times, and became friends and hung out in real life. Kind of slowly through the cool cats, I just started to realize that everybody that I would gravitate towards had a cool cat, and went to LA, and me and Toby went to the first unofficial cool cats meetup and just sat there and drew with Clon, and yeah, just kind of naturally made friends from this online community of blue cats that I was somehow part of and just like interested in, and I just kind of hung around and talked to people and went to their events, and it's, you know, been connected somehow and played a huge role in my story and my artwork and supporters from their community to mine. So it was a really great thing, and it was wild to kind of look back on only 3 years, 2.5 years ago.
Yeah, we often joke that it's really all about the friends we made along the way. But I mean, if we look at where we are, most of us who are still here during the bear market, the people that we interact with and work with and collaborate with are the people that we met in these communities along the way. Like I work with lots of people from Cryptodes, which was one of my first projects that I ever entered. And of course that led me into Nouns. And now I'm basically, a full-time contributor here in Nouns. So, it really is about the friends we make along the way, as cliche as it is.
It's very, very true. It's a cliche for a reason. So, I can't give more thanks and praise to the cats and everybody over there. And I try to pop in the Discord and, support where I can. So I love everything that they're doing, and excited for next month when they'll be in the Macy's Day Parade flip thing.
Oh my God, I didn't even know that, actually. See, you can't keep up with all the news in this space.
I mean, so great that everybody's still working, no matter what, there's projects out there and artists out there and creatives that are doing stuff and pushing their craft forward.
The Cool Cats just had to one up us. We had a float in the Rose Bowl parade at the start of the year. I know. Now they want to do Macy's. They beat us to Macy's. No, that's okay. A rising tide lifts all ships, so that's amazing to hear.
Sure does.
Speaking of the bear market that I mentioned just a minute ago, one thing I wanted to ask you about is what it's been like to be an artist through, I think now more than one crypto cycle, if I'm not mistaken. I think, what's it like to be a crypto native artist and to see the waxing and waning of people's, enthusiasm around crypto in general and then crypto art?
To be honest, I don't really check the charts or check anything. I just have art comes first. So I just post my artwork and what I'm making all day long. I don't tend to check if it's price up, price down. There's nothing I can do about that. And I don't really offer up things for sale too often. I usually do these kind of big collections that take time and effort, and there's storytelling. And so I'm just happy I get to wake up every day and make artwork and can kind of support myself and try to buy other artists' work when I can. And I think the exploration of many different mediums and, from murals to public art to physical art to digital to clothes and all the above, that has kind of kept me just inspired as an artist altogether, where I don't have to solely depend on my kind of living off of purely all digital. But yeah, I try not to check the bear or bull. I try to stay informed a little bit, but to me, I just have 1,000 things that I want to make and create and connect with. So I'm really lucky that the kind of ebbs and flows of the market haven't deterred me or got to me too bad.
But do you find that the bear market has done any kind of distillation of your community? Because as much as you might be immune to the fluctuations of the market, the fact is, when things do go up and down, some people leave and some people stay. And what have you found within your own community? Has it sort of distilled it down to a core? Or
Sure, yeah, yeah, definitely. I think, there's reasons people get in, for the money, for the quick flip, for the art, for the culture. There's, you can name many reasons why people got in. I think, of course, it's, in my Discord, it's slow sometimes and sometimes it's not, but I think that's just where people want to do with their time. So I'm still posting updates and announcements and stuff that I'm working on and every day. So, to me, it's just wake up every day, make artwork, work on the projects that I have at hand, work on things in the future, and update people when I'm working on stuff. And that's all I really can do. So it's where people want to spend their time and energy. So yeah, if it's slow for the market's sake and people aren't making money, then they might be out. But for me, I'm an artist first, and just tend to do that and try to just talk about artwork, share other people's artworks, and keep people up to date and collectors up to date with things that I'm working on that are new.
And whatever you make, keep it, right?
Yeah, of course.
This might be like choosing a child, but I'm wondering if you could give us an example maybe of something that you really love, a piece of art that you worked on that you really loved.
Oh, well, I would say the first thing that comes to my mind is my letters collection and then my diary collection. If I could, choose bodies of artwork that I'm very proud of, that would be those two. I mean, they did certain things for me, and letters, a lot of people in this space learned about my artwork from there, and that's how I connected with communities like Cool Cats and Dead Fellas and Doodles, and I just started to meet people online and friends, and then I got opportunities to work with brands from those things. And I think those two, and then recently Diary only came out last month, and we're still kind of working on things through that, which is great. And I would say those two. If I could just pick big bodies of artwork.
I think it might be a little bit cheating. No, I'm just kidding. That's fine. I heard that you got to do a mural project recently in your hometown of Baltimore. Can you say a little bit about that?
I got contacted by this development company in Baltimore, and they had this like an empty retail space. And it was all kind of boarded up, and they just kind of, wanted an artist to spruce it up. So it wasn't just a boarded up, empty retail space in this kind of upscale neighborhood in Baltimore a bit. And it was my first kind of large outdoor mural. I'd never done something that big, and I did it in spray paint. So it was like a big step for me, and did that and felt super confident about it, and got a great response from the development company and the neighborhood that the artwork was in. And lo and behold, the development company reached back out to me, and they had this new construction that they're currently working on now. And I got to kind of design the facade of the elevator shaft in concrete. So I've kind of tweeted out a photo of this big kind of concrete object, and it'll be the outside of this elevator in this new apartment complex. So my artwork, I guess architecture to some degree is a medium that I got to work in somehow. And that's so cool. Mural, yeah.
I think that says something special about your art, though, is just how the medium, can change so much, and it still has impact from the smallest Michael's canvas to like the side of a building. It's identifiable as yours, and it still works. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, so super excited. I've gotten to work on some projects like that, and get to juggle these physical projects, whether it's public art, murals, architecture, to doing a bunch of different drawings and paintings and commissioned work, and then different brand work, and just excited to keep spreading the artwork and experimenting in kind of areas that I haven't done before. So just kind of scratching that itch in my own head of like, oh, this would be cool, and then have this opportunity and kind of just be able to explore through my artwork.
It's good to be flexible that way, for sure.
For sure.
One thing I wanted to ask you about, and I'd be remiss if I didn't, since this is a Nounish podcast, but I'd love to hear your thoughts on Nouns. Obviously, you've been in the space for a long time. You saw Nouns, begin in 2021, and you've probably had a chance to follow from afar. Just curious about what your thoughts are about the Nouns project as an art project.
Yeah, I love the Nouns. I've definitely been in a few spaces where I do the countdowns and everything, and I've definitely been brought in a great way. I was looking at some of the different propositions and trying to just learn, because Nouns do a ton of different stuff all the time, and from the little nouns and everything that you guys do, and just trying to learn. So I think they're trying to uplift artists in different ways, support ecosystems, put on great public art events and things like that. And I've been following from afar and was kind of thinking about how I could get involved, whether it was like a small proposition to do some like noun style artwork or something fun. So I'm always trying to stay up to date. And I just saw something about it's like a garden round one or something from the prop house I was just looking at before we started here, and just trying to read when I can and stay up to date. But yeah, we love it.
Amazing. Well, I have an idea for you on that note that I thought of just before we jumped on here today. You mentioned the garden round. The garden round is like a prop house where there's 2 5 ETH prizes for any artist or dev who has an idea, and you should totally enter that too. But there's also another prop house round that's coming up next month, and it's going to be the first ever prop house round where a noun, actually 3 nouns, are awarded to 3 candidates who are interested in joining the DAO. I'm not sure if you heard or not, but Nouns just went through a pretty tumultuous year where we had a DAO split ultimately, and so like there's like the OG DAO and the old DAO. I won't get too much into the politics, but part of what happened from that is that a bunch of nouns that the Nouners left, those ended up in the treasury. So this is part of an initiative for us to sort of redeploy those nouns out to people that would be interesting to have in the DAO. So I, for one, would love to see you apply to that round. I think you'd make an amazing nouner, and maybe we could think of some kind of a collaboration where you did a nouns inspired collection or something or piece.
Exactly what I was thinking as well. I had some fun ideas to do a small batch or of like PFP inspired things, because I've never done any. I've always had a PFP collection concepts in my head, and I was thinking it'd be fun to kind of incorporate the nongles or kind of nounish artwork, different styles of drawing, and then be able to give those set of couple hundred one-of-one PFPs to noun holders or the communities in different ways. So that's kind of what I was thinking. So I was doing my research before I got on here, and just you guys having me on kind of inspired me from there. So
well, let's talk offline, and I'd be happy to support you in that. But I think there's something there. And also, someone mentioned Robot Fish Girl. You might remember her. She was the host for the space when you were on TNS before. She couldn't make it tonight, but she sent me a message before I jumped on. She's like, by the way, one of the 3 nouns that they're giving away in this round to 3 different people in the prop house round is the decaying pickle, which just so happens to be the exact noun we minted the day that you were on TNS. So I'm not saying it's a sign. But I'm just saying it's a fact. So
something's going on.
Something, maybe a Vinnie pickle in the future. We'll have to see. When you were just talking about the PFP idea, you kind of reminded me a little bit of we had Jack Butcher on the show about 3 weeks ago, and he talked a lot about that too, because he's a designer by trade. Obviously, he's a brilliant illustrator, brilliant thinker, and he had been thinking about doing a PFP project earlier in 2021, but just never got around to it, or they didn't think the timing was right. And then OPEPen was like the result of him rethinking about that problem with Jalil, and I think he's done a really good job of like doing a PFP project that's not a PFP project. And I think you'd be ripe for doing something similar, something that is very identifiable, just like what Jack's done with OPEPen.
I almost wanted to do the opposite thing, to try to draw, like learn how to digitally draw in like different styles. Like, how do people draw like anime and like these like very illustrative styles of drawing? And I was going to try to like test myself and to draw and then just airdrop it to like all letter holders or something, do like 1,000. It would just be like something fun that I'd kind of work on over time. And that concept in my head has been, going around, because I already have a bulk of collectors. It'd be fun just to kind of randomly distribute these like weird PFPs and be like, what is this like weird thing? It's like kind of reminiscent of my styles in certain ways. So I think just something as a project to do for fun, to give back to people that have supported me in the past is kind of where I'm at, and kind of see how that could be delegated to something like with Nouns, like theming some of the PFPs. And I don't know. Yeah, I could spit here forever about ideas and silly things, but
that's what we're here for. I love it.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, one of the questions I wanted to sort of hit you with towards the end of the interview here was, of course, I wanted to hear what is next for Vinnie. So you kind of led us right into it. I'd love to hear what you're sort of thinking about. If there's any alpha you could drop, any projects that you're working on that we can await to see soon.
Yeah, I think right now we are about a month. Yeah, my diary collection minted, about a month ago in September, and during that we had a physical print claim of the artwork. So whatever artwork somebody minted, you could claim it as a print. So we're kind of just in the printing process right now, getting all those printed. So they'll be hopefully finishing up in the next week or so and being sent to my house, and I'll be hand signing them all, and then they'll start to be distributed in different ways. And so that's kind of
that's so
thing.
Cool.
Yeah.
I've got a piece from Jack, actually, from his Elements collection that's signed and on its way to me too, and I just can't wait. There's something cool about just having a physical piece with that.
I agree. I like the both. I like the physical and the digital. So yeah, wrapping up diary with that. Of course, kind of releasing clothes and different fun items and clothing on my web store here. And to be honest, I've just been kind of relaxing and going through some stuff in my personal life and just recalibrating as the kind of seasons are changing and a lot of ideas and things are ruminating. So kind of just working out some of these end things with some prior projects, and cleaning up my house and kind of taking care of myself and my health and mind.
That's important.
Yeah, excited for, there's 1,001 ideas in my head, but just trying to get like a good personal schedule and kind of getting some life stuff done, And I think I got some bigger plans in the new year that I'd like to do. I won't say anything just yet, but I'd love to do like a traditional kind of painting gallery show of some sort, and got some other kind of brand work and partnerships under wraps for now that I'm kind of working through. And a lot of stuff going on, but I'm thinking I'm just taking this kind of turn of season into the fall to take some personal time and skateboard and go on some long walks and just kind of recalibrate for the new year, which I'm really excited about, and kind of take my time and wrap up some of these other projects that I've been doing over the last few months. So yeah, it's been a great time.
I love that. A big part of our audience at the Noun Square tends to be artists, because we do a lot of contests. I don't know if you remember, we did the Vinnie Hager style Nouns contest when you came on TNS, and it was incredible, the entries that came in for that. But anyway, there's a lot of artists in our community, so I was wondering if I could ask you, what advice would you give, to aspiring artists who, maybe they're physical artists, maybe they're digital artists, maybe they're both, but they'd love to do it for a living. What kind of advice would you give them?
Yeah, I would say, you need a little bit of delusion to be an artist. You got to just have that. You also have to have that kind of grit and determination. And to me, I'm just addicted to drawing and creating, and I can't shut off my mind sometimes. And I'm just always thinking about what's next. And I think if you're naturally yearning to like make things and create things, whether it's photography or poetry or visual art or, Blender or, 3D art, it could be any of the creative things, podcasting, writing threads or interviews, anything. I think I would just do it and do it and do it and do it and connect with the like-minded people that do what they do, and take, don't try to box yourself in, but take inspiration from as many different kind of creative outlets as you can, and then just wiggle your way into conversations or, apply for, you look at Nouns, they have, this round of, you can propose something and, get involved. And, I used to get involved in, local galleries that would, have call for artists, like submit your artwork. And there's just so many ways to get involved and to have conversations and to share your artwork now. And I think if you have the need and want to do it, and that passion to create, you'll find ways to get involved and slow and steady build upon what you want to do as an artist. And I think it comes naturally, but it's a lot of hard work and effort and time. So yeah, I'd just say keep making stuff, keep sharing it, get involved with what's going on, listen. And yeah.
I think that's good advice, and obviously you've taken your own advice, and it's worked out quite well for you. I think especially the point where you said about resiliency and like flexibility and being willing to work in different mediums has obviously been a key ingredient to your own success. So I think it's good advice for others.
Yeah, I think it's just all about exploring. I mean, artwork at the end of the day should be fun. I hope. I mean, there's sometimes very, very serious art being made at serious times, and artwork can be that. But I think at the same time, it can be fun. It can be an outlet for expression. It can be many, many different things. And for me, I've just had this yearning to create and draw and kind of have fun with it. And it's been my protection. It's been my armor. It's been a superpower. It's been all these things. So it's helped me in many different ways. But I've just always had the need to make it. And that's led me to opportunities and conversations and like-minded people and sharing it in many different ways.
Well, maybe it's helped you and maybe it's been your own therapy, but it's also been great for the rest of us that have been able to enjoy it and collect it. So thank you for what you do, and thank you for taking the time to come on ZeroPod and chat with us. It's been amazing.
Of course. Anytime. Thank you guys for having me, and it was lovely chatting.
Awesome.
Enjoy the rest of the night. I appreciate you chatting and taking the time as well.
Thanks, Vinny. Have a good one.
Yeah. Ciao.
Bye.